This is the training for the Emergency Action Plan for Kuhlman Yard 4 on Reynolds at Central. Implementing emergency procedures, Eric Docerno and Dwayne Palmer have overall responsibility for implementing this plan. In the event that Eric and Dwayne are not available, the most senior manager at Yard 4 has full authority to implement this plan. In the event of a fire or medical emergency, any employee may call 911. Just be aware that you have to hit 9 first if you're using an office desk phone. It's important to remember that because in the event of an emergency, sometimes we panic. Any serious injuries or accidents that fall within these guidelines must be reported to OSHA. When an emergency occurs, we're going to use voice commands within the building and also radios to contact warehouse people. In the event of a tornado warning, we're going to account for employees and visitors, customers will go to the nearest shelter depending on what part of the property they are on. Please make note of the various gathering places here. If we have a weather event like a blizzard, if it happens while we're at work, we will monitor the snow level emergencies to decide whether or not to send people home early. If the emergency happens overnight before you report to work, be aware if it's a level 3, if we're required to stay off the roads, we will stay off the roads. But if conditions change during the day, you may be required to report to work at a later time. Please contact your supervisor. Medical emergencies, like I mentioned, 911, we want to get emergency responders en route. We have certified first aid CPR employees. They are authorized to use the automatic external defibrillator, which is located in the sample warehouse. It's important that we comfort any injured people until medical personnel can arrive. If you're interested in becoming first aid and CPR trained, you can find training. The company will reimburse you. Any questions, please contact Steve Grau. If we should have a fire or explosion, we want to call 911, and it may be required to evacuate the facility. If the fire or explosion can't be contained or a chemical spill within an area of the property. It's important to note that if we're going to do any cleanup of any spilled materials, we need to consult the safety data sheet first to see what protection is required. If we need to evacuate the property, it's important to note the paths that we will take. Primary path would be the main entrance to the property. Secondary path would be a loop behind the pipe out by the aggregate bins. In either case, we will meet in the hardscape display area out off Reynolds Road on the south end of the property. Time permitting, when we evacuate, we would cut the power to the main building. Once the facility is evacuated, we're going to call 911. If we have any trucks that are out, we're going to route them to a different location. It's important that you check in when we evacuate the property with either Eric or Dwayne to make sure everybody is out. We need to account for everybody. This is important too. If you're in sales, if you leave the property, if you go to lunch, if you're other employees and you go to lunch, that you check in so we know if you're not in the property, so we're not sending in emergency personnel to look for you. So everybody needs to check in before we leave the property if that's what happens. We're going to do this emergency action plan training at least annually. which is the purpose of this video. When any changes are made to the procedures, when new employees are hired, of course, they need the training. And when audits show that we're not prepared in the event of an emergency. Handling the media, this is important. If we have an event like a fire, explosion, or something where we need to evacuate, the news media will show up. They're looking for stories. And in fact, they may put a microphone in your face and ask you for comments. What happened? What do you know? Our company policy is that only the president or a vice president of the company can comment to the media on behalf of the company. We've had events over the years where media has misquoted employees, so this is why we have this policy. If you have any questions on this policy or comments, please see Eric, Dwayne, Terry, or myself, Steve Grau. There's some important phone numbers here. If you have a hard copy of this policy, you keep this in a spot where you can reach it in the event of emergency. These important phone numbers will be readily available. That concludes the training portion of the video. Please answer a couple questions and turn the sheet into your supervisor so you can get credit for this training. Thank you.